But he's got an interesting point. He's saying something, a person who collected, he survived. I think this guy's like a communist at the end of the day. he's basically saying that because you have it and you owned it at some point. Here's what's interesting. I'll tell you something interesting, right? In the case of art, right? In the case of paintings, most, when it comes to art, paintings, like especially anything you go into like a certain price level, there is a provenance, there is a chain, and one of the valuable things when you buy a painting, especially you're buying I don't know whether it's a lot of times, whether it's modern stuff, whether it's look, I've bought paintings like old master paintings that are, let's call it 400 years old, okay? And there is a provenance. There is okay, this was owned by, and you have it, and it was owned by, the Duke of whatever. It was passed to this guy. And how do you know this? Because it's interesting. The Dutch actually kept records of like whatever called like wills or whatever. So like we all know what Rembrandt had, his estate. We know what his estate consisted of, all the inventory, right? So there's all that stuff is that. So when it comes to art, especially for like a lot of paintings, like serious paintings, people know who owned them, right? Like there are paintings that actually are around the world today. A few paintings, I'm not, in a very modest way, that basically say they were, they came from the colonel or they were sold by the colonel, at some point, right? I'm part of that chain of provenance. And it's actually in books, right? For example, the Andy Warhol catalog, right? The catalog raisonné, right? The catalog raisonné is basically, it's a giant book or set of books that lists and shows pictures of every painting or work of art that the artist produced. For Picasso, there's like 25 volumes. It's huge. For whatever. So there's one for, let's say, Andy Warhol, right? I happen to have an Andy Warhol drawing, right? And I am in there because, I contacted the estate. I said that, I was buying and stuff. So I am in there in the record as this was owned by the colonel, right? Same thing with this guy was a Tom Wesselman, right? Which is a major artist, right? This is a painting that I sold, I brokered to a guy, and in the provenance with the estate, that record, it says it was sold by my company, basically, right? So the gallery, whatever, right? The colonel's gallery, if you will, right? So whatever it is, right? So there is actually this stuff you do live on, forever in theory, right? Like I know these names from 500 years ago because they owned that piece of canvas. They owned this basically this,
Okay. So now, now that brings up an interesting question. Now that because all right, when you're the first person that buys a Patek, you register your name in their archives, and the same thing goes for Breguet. If you're the first person to buy, a Breguet, you have the opportunity to register your name with Breguet, and they keep your name in. It used to be a book. It's no longer a book. Now it's like some database somewhere. So how much do you think that matters for an established brand? Let's say if Rolex were a brand that did that, how much would that increase the the demand for their watches?
Okay, so no, so it's an interesting. Okay, so you got an interesting thing. Okay, so with watches, that type of thing has not really entered the conversation yet. I don't think collectors are aware of that. Like watch people are not. It's a little different with watches than it is with paintings. I think one of the big issues with paintings is that the provenance is important for two reasons, actually. Two reasons. Number one is for the sake of authenticity, right? Because, all of a sudden a painting comes up. It surfaces to the market out of nowhere. I don't know, let's use what's his name? I'm trying to think of a name. Okay, let's use, Monet. Okay, let's use Monet. Monet surfaces to the market, right? A scene of, I don't know, haystacks or something, right? And it surfaces to the market. People aren't going to say, hey, this $10 million painting, hey, let's just, hey, okay, it's for sale. Let's put it up on eBay. No, where did it come from? How do I know it's legit, right? What's the chain of who owned this before? So I know it's legit, right? If it was owned by, the right people, right? And we can go into that, right? I'll go into that, but who are the right people who owned it? Okay, then it's legit, where was it owned? So it's people know that it wasn't stolen. It wasn't, for example, in Europe, right? there was a big issue which still surfaces to this day. A lot of paintings were looted by the Nazis, right? Thousands, there were like probably hundreds of thousands of paintings, right, looted by the Nazis, and a lot of there's stuff that was archived, there was records, and a lot of times stuff comes to the market, and all of a sudden there's got to be what's it called, repatriated or whatever, I don't know, what's the title, it goes back to the it's a whole thing. It's a big mess to this day. So the provenance matters. With watches, not so much. But here's the other thing: the provenance matters, I believe, because the other issue is if a guy had really incredible taste, if somebody was known as an incredible collector, right? People will say, "Oh wow, I'm proud to own something that was part of this guy's collection." Like it gives you a nice feeling to know that this thing is hanging on your wall. Like, look, I have a painting. I've had paintings on my wall that were owned by like guys who were like billionaires, right? That had, some of these guys had great taste. Now these were modest. These were like a couple thousand, 10,000, 5,000, whatever. But the fact is, like, I know this thing that's hanging on my wall, I feel a connection to this other guy. Now maybe this guy was a fucking asshole. I don't know, whatever. But I feel a connection. Like we have a similar taste. We have a similar. I don't know. It's a weird. It's an interesting feel. It's really interesting with paintings. With watches, that type of thing, I believe, is starting to enter the conversation. For example, we know that Michael Ovitz, Michael Ovitz, the big Hollywood agent, Michael Ovitz?
No, but continue, please.
Okay, so Mike Ovitz was the biggest Hollywood agent in the last like 30 years. His heyday was like the 1980s and the 90s. He basically controlled the whole industry. Like you couldn't make a movie in Hollywood without Mike Ovitz. And the big joke was when you're watching the Oscars, right? All these guys give the acceptance speech. They say thank you. They also thank you, God. They say first I want to thank God, right? They're saying they want to thank God, then the family. The whole thing, right? The first person they thanked was Mike Ovitz. That's how big this guy was. Like if you won an Oscar, and you did not thank Mike Ovitz in the first three people, and he was your like that was like you might be like blacklisted. I mean, this guy was the guy. He was responsible for every hit movie in the literally every hit movie. He packaged them. He brought in the director, the actor. Like he was the guy, and he built a major Patek collection. I'm sure Duke Philippe knows about it. So Mike Ovitz was a massive Patek collector, and he was known for commissioning special watches from Patek, and they would put his initials at the bottom, like it said there's like a little MO, and those watches today are very valuable. The Mike Ovitz, I think if we Google Mike Ovitz Patek Philippe, hang on a second, I think I'll do that. Hang on a second, Mike Ovitz, Michael Ovitz Patek. That's the whole thing now. I bet there's going to be guys who are collecting Mike Ovitz watches. Hang on. I'm going to pull it up right now. Stop screen. Wait. Present. Share screen. Mike Ovitz. Okay, so the Mike Ovitz watch, I believe, is going to be like the next collector category. Like I shouldn't say collector category. It's gonna be like it's gonna be like a highly exclusive subgenre. It's gonna be like if somebody has like 5 Mike Ovitz watches, it's gonna be like that's gonna be like the thing. Like we were showing yesterday that the guy who's got the gem set, he's got those. Oh, you love this. This is for you, Baron.
That is a good looking watch.
Those are your
all right, those are
your numbers.
Yeah, the Breguet numerals. Yeah. Okay, but I don't know. But how much value does owning something that Mike Ovitz, who was, because he's just an agent. He was like a agent. At the end of the day, he's just an agent.
Whoa! If you said that line in 1995. You'd be blacklisted. If you said this guy's just, you'd be blacklisted. I mean, look, seriously. No, he ran CAA, which was the big agency. CAA was the big. That was he ran. That's like the guy. You know the guy. Remember that show, that TV show, called what's about those guys in LA? What was it called? You know, these guys who are like actors hanging out. What is it called? It's like a bros. It was an HBO. What is it called? Entourage.
Yeah.
Remember that show, Entourage?
Yeah.
Okay, so that guy, the agent, Ari Gold, I think, he was modeled after a guy named Ari Emanuel, who is like the Mike Ovitz of today. He runs, I think it's Endeavor, it's called, but he's not. But Mike Ovitz in his day, he was like a deity in Hollywood. He really was. It was like you know, it's basically like saying it's the Pope's watch. I'll put it that way, okay? It's like, you know, if the Pope collected, if there was like a Pope who was a big watch collector, like this guy who's in charge now, if he was a big watch collector, I guarantee you people would be into it. Like, how much does it add? I think it probably adds 50 to 100% premium. To answer your question, 50 to 100%. Yeah.
All right, because the way I'm thinking about it, right, is that kind of like, all right, you know, he's I guess famous in entertainment, but that's it. He's not like you know, like the last Tsar of Russia or you know, I think recently
he's bigger than the last Tsar of Russia. Have you heard of? Listen, okay, here's the thing. Today we're living in a different age, right? 2024 is not, you know, 1995 or 1990, right? Things have changed a lot, right? Like Hollywood doesn't matter. I don't think I remember the last time I watched the Oscars, but at one point the movies were a big part of American culture or world culture. Like I think that probably ended, you know, over the last 20 years. Like once the internet took off, I mean, everybody's a star now, right? Like Andy Warhol said, everybody's going to be famous for 15 minutes. But here's the thing: in the up until the year 2000, I would say, right, up until the internet became huge, the movies, Hollywood was a big thing. There was always these gossip magazines. When you went to a supermarket, there were these gossip magazines that told you what the actors were doing. Today, people watch, you know, TMZ. I don't know what they do, but yeah, exactly, CAA. No, so anybody that knows anything about in that era, this guy was a household. He was like the equivalent of Tom Cruise. Everybody knew who he was. Everybody. Like, I mean, like you know, he was like so big, you couldn't imagine how big this guy's name was. And now look at this. Nobody knows his name. You don't know this guy's name. That's an insult. An insult to Mike Ovitz. It just goes to show you, right? You know, what is that line of Ecclesiastes, right? Vanity of, like, you know, it's like, you know, Ecclesiastes. What's the line? It was something like vanity of, like, you know, everything is transient. You know, everything has its moment in the sun. And, you know, 50 years from now, nobody cares. 100 years from now, nobody will care. The only people that care is basically your family is the only people that care or remember you. Everything else, people don't care. You did your thing in the world. You know, you did your part to move things along. And that's it. You did your part, and that you know, that's it. You're gone. Like nobody will remember what buildings you put up or, you know, any of that stuff. Nobody knows that, you know, what companies, you know, Steve Jobs. I guarantee you, in 20 years, nobody will know who Steve Jobs was. I mean, today even people don't know who like, you know, Elon Musk. You know, 20 years after he dies, nobody will know who he is. Maybe unless he goes to Mars or something crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, but. This guy was so big. I mean, you heard of Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah.
This guy's name was like up there. It's like one of those top 10 names. It was like one of those name recognition things. And he was an agent. He's an agent. He's not an actor. He's a guy, you know? So now he's basically an older guy. He's probably in his 70s. I don't know why he sold his collection. I don't know why he was selling off. He's a wealthy guy. He's probably worth, I'm not his accountant. He's probably worth, I don't know, a couple $100 million or something, maybe $1 billion. Nobody really, he's like, you know, he had a falling out with Hollywood because, you know, he was talking about the Velvet Mafia. Are you familiar with the Velvet Mafia, Baron?
I know what the Velvet Mafia is, yes.
Okay. So he was talking about the Velvet Mafia, right? And because this guy was already kind of like a little bit weak, he was a little bit on the way out. These guys went bananas, right? And, he was like, basically, they kind of, he didn't say anything bad. He basically said, like, you know, there's a lot of gay guys or, who are pulling, and it's 100% true. There's a lot of the top guys, are gay. It's 100%. And do they have a casting couch? 100%. 100%. The like you hear about the Me Too for women. You will never hear about the Me Too thing in the gay world. Why? Because these guys are today it would be considered listen, and basically, the I might be blacklisted. I might be canceled if I say this. No, but here's the reality. The heterosexual sex is considered like taboo. Like if a 50-year-old guy hits on a 18-year-old girl, people can say, "Oh, the guy's a pervert. He's Me Too, whatever." But if a 50-year-old gay guy hits on a 70-year-old gay guy, the guy's avant-garde. I mean, it's the way it is. Like, whatever, it's just the way it is. I'm not telling people anything that they don't know. But anyway, so this guy kind of had a falling out, and people don't know about it. But the guy is an absolute mega ultra. Oh my God! Look at this. Look, he's got a whole thing of Mike Ovitz watches. So this is a watch, unique and extraordinary, sealed, special order from Mike Ovitz. It's sold at the bottom of the range. Whoa, this is your. Oh, by the way, Baron, I got to tell you, you know what?
Yeah.
I have good news for you. You ready for the good news?
Yeah, go hit me.
Mike Ovitz specifically ordered these Breguet Arabic numerals. That's all his watches have. Oh. That's his thing. You and him.
Yeah. The thing I don't like about the thing I don't like about Roman numerals is I'm one of the people that don't like the watchmaker's 4. I know it brings balance to the watch, but I'm just not it just irritates me.
Listen, it's not just you. Mike Ovitz feels the same way. He does, because look at these watches. 100%. All his custom Pateks all have these numerals. So let me tell you something. One day, I bet you're going to buy a Mike Ovitz watch, and then you're going to look back to this conversation and say, "Wow, now I appreciate provenance. I'm wearing on my wrist the watch that was worn by the guy that made Rain Man," or I don't know, whatever movie. What was your favorite movie? What was your favorite movie? Give me your top 3 favorite movies of let's call it the 80s.
The 80s. I don't know. That's just like a hard thing to recall. What's that? You guys watching like?
I don't know how old you are.
Yeah, no, I'm 43. In the 80s, I was like a kid watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay, so I don't know if he was involved in that. Wait, in the 80s. Oh shit! I just realized the 80s is a long time ago. It's like 30 years. Okay, let's go back to the 90s, early 90s. How about Rain Man? Remember that movie Rain Man? A great movie, Rain Man.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Okay, he made that. He made all these movies. Okay, we gotta comment $9.99. Let's go to the super chats. By the way, we gotta address the super chats because we have a lot of aristocrats here in the audience. Now, the notorious Mech is not an aristocrat yet. He's saying unpopular truth: a collection of vintage watches means you're poor and don't belong in the watch game. Ooh. Oh my God, that's brutal. Your thoughts on that before I address?
It could go either way. Because there are some vintage pieces that retain and increase in value. I mean, there are very few, but there are some of those. But the vast majority of vintage pieces are they are less than, well, I don't want to say adjusted for inflation. They're less than their retail price.
Depends what you're talking about. For example, like you don't want to say that to this guy. What's his name? He calls himself John Goldberger. What's his name is Aura Montanaro, the Italian. All the heavy hitter Italian collectors, all they have is vintage. They have literally. There's a couple of guys with collections worth, I don't know, 100 million plus. I mean, those are big numbers in watches. That's like unheard of. There's a bunch of guys like 10 million, 50 million. 100. It's all vintage stuff. Now, it doesn't have to be 1930s. Generally, these guys have watches from the 50s to the early 90s. So, that's what it is. By the way, this guy here has This guy, vintage equals old. Ooh, 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 ooh. Hang on. So the flat four, this guy knows what's going on. Yeah, so this guy's wife found the Jimmy Choo. That's like a big fashion shoe brand that was hot for women.
Mhm.
Oh, look at this. Never get your Grail. Oh, that's brutal. I say no, you got to get the Grail watch, because if you don't get it, somebody else is going to get your money, and they're going to spend it on something stupid. Top Gun. I think he made Top Gun. I think he did make Top Gun. Let's see here. Baron Luxme to Top Gun. Antarctic. I kill it to become my fanged. I don't know what that means. Is that Latin or something? This guy's a philosopher. It's too deep. This is too deep. I can't. I'm going through these stats so quick. I can't. Like this guy's comments. I actually have to think about. I'm speeding through this very quickly. The collection is never really initiated. I mean, this guy's too philosophical. It's like very deep thoughts. I don't know. Can you explain what this means in English? Okay, what's the premium Harvey Weinstein collection? Okay, I believe I don't know. I don't think Harvey Weinstein had good personal taste. I think he really was a guy was a kind of like a slob. Like he dressed like a slob. He basically acted like a slob because that was part of his thing. I don't think he had any real watches. He may have had but I don't think. But I do think I would buy one of his watches. But it's hard to identify. Here's the thing with watches. It's very hard to identify who owned them unless, like Mike Ovitz, he has his initials at the bottom, right under the 6. You got the initials. So you really don't know who owned the watch. It doesn't mean. With art, with paintings, you know who owned it because usually on the back of the painting, there are labels. There's gallery labels. There's, there might be labels from the collections, museum collections. There's all sorts of labels on the back of important paintings, which, by the way, you don't want to remove so that's part of the thing. With watches, you don't have that. So with watches, the provenance, I don't think is going to be as valuable unless it's easily to identify. Like Mike Ovitz watch has the MO. A lot of the a lot of these custom watches by the whether it's like Indian Maharajas or like the Saudi, the Gulf monarchs. They have their little signia on it, that type of thing. But so that's the. Let me see here. Okay, Baron Neo. Sorry, I got you. $1.99 super chat. Baron Neo. Apes. Baron Apes is in the house. We got a lot of Canadians. We have a lot of Canadians, including I think this guy's Canadian, as well as Patek Philippe is Canadian. You let the sun bleach it out. It was probably a print. Yeah. If it was a print, so that's why I stick with paintings. They don't get bleached. But that's the problem with works on paper. So $3.99 super sticker. Perry Watch Lux. Greetings from the Duke Philippe. Timmy. Okay, we got comments about Macolas. Where is Macolas? What is Macolas? Where's Macolas here? Oh, got Macolas, yeah. Yuri. Okay, by the dog. Okay, I think I caught up with everything. I think I caught up with most things. Okay, I know we're on a time limit with you, Baron. So please give the audience, give the punters, the aristocrats, your comments on the 10 commandments.
All right. So I think also when you buy a watch, you shouldn't just look at it from an investment perspective. You have to think about, like, is it a watch that you're going to wear? And then that entails things like proportions, right? It could be a beautiful watch, but hey, you know what? Maybe it's too big or too small for your wrist. So it's something that you think, it might go up in value. There's a good chance it might, but if you're not going to wear it, is that really something that's worth owning? Another thing I think about also is I take into consideration things like domestic serviceability, but that's really just like a minor thing because some watches have to be sent overseas for basic maintenance. So I think about that. And if you're buying, if you're not, if you're not buying retail, I also think about the service records for the watch, especially for vintage watches, because you don't really know what the conditions or the condition of the movement is going to be until it's opened up.
Very important point. It's a very important point. If you have a complication, it's good to know that there was a recent service. Like I have to send in the Patek Perpetual. I have to send it in for service. I bought it basically well, actually I traded it in for another watch, but basically everything was there. The whole package was there, the full set as we call it. And that's the only thing that gave me comfort, was knowing that, okay, it's a full set, because, the dealer I got it from, these guys tell you whatever. You can't trust these guys. They're all liars anyway, right? So he said, yeah, this guy's a big collector. He never wore it. And I think the watch was hardly worn. I mean, you could tell it basically was hardly worn. The whole set was there. But the watch is from, was made in the 2005. So that's almost 20 years. So that watch was never serviced. And, I'm going to have to service it. I got to fly to New York to deliver it because, well, I got to go there anyway. But, if I give it to a local service center, they're going to charge me insurance to ship it. It's whatever. I mean, the ticket is $300. But anyway, so the point about service, very important for Patek especially.
Yeah, but for the watch that you purchased, I think there are some signs that potentially, that the dealer's telling the truth. It's like, if it's the original strap, and then you see it hasn't really been broken in, that could potentially be a sign that really wasn't worn.
So, yeah. No, I mean, everything was. By the way, that's one of the things. That's why when buying Patek, especially you want to know that everything is there, because then like this guy, he was telling me, yeah, the guy was just. He never wore the watch, whatever. Yeah, he had everything was there, the whole full set. The box, the papers, the little case back, the little pusher, all the paper, everything, all the documentation, the watch. And you look at it, all the hallmarks are still crisp. The strap looked. I have the strap. I think that I would say that probably that watch the guy might have worn it like 20 times or something like that. Not whatever it is, not a lot of times. I mean, the strap was kind of but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but here's the thing: the straps are replaceable. Anybody can change a strap.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, there are people that take off, the original strap, and then they put an aftermarket strap on to wear it, so that they can put the original back on when they. There are people that do that. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually I didn't think about that. Actually, that's tricky.
Yeah, so that's also why a lot of collectors, when they buy, a vintage watch, they specifically find one that hasn't been polished, because that's also a sign of how much it's been worn.
We should add that to the. Well, I'm not sure if that should be added to the 10 Commandments, but it's definitely the condition matters. I think that's kind of an obvious thing almost. That's why I didn't put it in, but it's definitely, especially for vintage, it's an issue, because especially a lot of these watches have condition issues. The dial might be flaking. You got dial problems. You got the Ellipse I have. There's a little micromillimeter flake on the dial. One of the blue dials has a micromillimeter flake already, and those do have a tendency to flake. Those are valid, very valid. Keep going.
That's all the comments I have. But okay, but I do have a question for you on your comment to own a perpetual calendar. So is it really that important to have a perpetual versus an annual calendar?
For which brand?
For any given brand.
Listen, okay. So for me, I happen to think that so the annual calendar, right? For Patek, I happen to think that they only have I think if I'm not mistaken, they have two basic lines. They have the hang on, I'll pull it up. Okay, actually, let's see if we can find him. Mike Ovitz. Okay, so here's the thing, right? The annual calendar is basically, it's kind of it's like the poor man's perpetual, basically. Why would somebody have an annual calendar? You know what I mean? It's Okay, so here's the thing. So their annual calendars, they have the 5396. They got the 5396, which I kind of like the dial. I like it in certain configurations, but I don't know. I like to see the subdials. I like to see all the subdials. That's basically it. And the annual calendars don't have all the subdials. They have they don't have all the subdials. That's the problem. So I want to see all the subdials. But you know what? Look, the annual calendar is okay if you're getting like the 5396. If you got like a nice crisp one, it's actually a beautiful watch. It didn't work for me, but for somebody else, it might be a great watch. The 5396, that could be okay. But I think, look, for Patek, everybody knows for Patek Philippe, the ultimate is the perpetual. So it's kind of like if you consider yourself like Archie Luxury calls himself like a Mr. Expert of Patek Philippe, so he should have a perpetual calendar because that's their ultimate watch, really. And the fact that he doesn't have, I'm saying, it makes him a illegitimate pontiff. It's like it is what it is. So, but look at this. Look at this. He likes those. This Mike Ovitz. You and Mike Ovitz have the same taste.
Yeah. Well, also, having Arabic numerals makes it easier to read. It just at a quick glance. It's just like less you have to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. Hang on a second. Let me see. He's got. Let me see. Here's him. Okay. So here's Rolex magazine. Mike Ovitz. This is the guy, Mike Ovitz. Oh, he's got a Rolex. He also had, he had everything. This guy had everything. That's him. This is white. He's got Paul Newman Daytona. Okay, he's got this is Mike Ovitz in the 80s. This is in the 80s. This is him in the 80s. And this looks like it's in Century City. This is like a classic 1980s. This is probably like in Vanity. He's got the date. He's got the date. Is that a date? No. Is it? I think it is. Yeah, it is. The gold date. There we go. Yeah, date. There it is. Yellow gold, 1987. Oh, I didn't even say. This was the look in 1987. This was the look. The date. Who is Mike Ovitz? He came with book. Okay. This is him, and what's the bottom here? This is him and Ron Meyer, another big agent in south of France. Are they? Yeah. No, they're not naked. No, it looks like they're naked. No, this is him and Jerry Seinfeld, right? This is him and this guy made like everything. This guy was like, the prologue is prologue, the past is prologue, perception is everything. This guy had all the best quotes. This guy really was. Oh, look at this. You should never, every detail is important. Where do you have a meeting? What is the surrounding environment? People who don't think about these things have a harder time in business. It's got to be the right place. It's got to be the right color. It's got to be the right choice. Everything has to be strategized. You have to know where you're going to come out before you go in. Otherwise, you lose. This guy studied the art of war. This guy was a very, very serious guy. The Tao Te Ching. Look at this guy. This guy is amazing. Yes. Look at this. Oh shit! Now I just lost respect for Mike Ovitz. He's got the Explorer too. Shit. Okay, I don't know. Listen, I don't know. Oh my God. Here he is with Jack Nicholson. He's got is that I think it's a Submariner he's wearing. He might be wearing like one of these low-key watches just to like, make the peasants feel better or something. Because this is not, it's very strange. Look at this. But these are the heavy hitters. Look, he's got Zuckerberg. Although, obviously, but, he's a heavy hitter guy.